Greetings, ESL 106. Here we are. We're in Module 6. We're looking at Skill 6, wrapping up Unit 2 here. So would you look with me at this skill, using graphic organizers? I wonder if you have already some experience using graphic organizers. Maybe when you're writing, you use graphic organizers to get organized, to get your ideas into an outline. We're going to take a look at how to use graphic organizers when you're reading, in order to take notes and in order to organize in your mind and on paper what an article is saying and what the parts are in the article. So here, let's take a look at Skill 6, and let's talk about some different options when it comes to graphic organizers. For example, one way that you might create a graphic organizer would be something like this, just using circles and arrows on a page. And this might help you talk about a problem that leads to some solutions. So for example, in our article that we had, Health and Wellness on the Go, we had the problem of chronic health problems, isolated living situations. All of this, remember, was discussed in that first paragraph. People who needed some help accessing healthcare. And the solution they talked about was this idea of mHealth, using technology, monitors, sending text messages, reminders. So I'm taking notes here in a way that shows the relationship of these ideas in that article. Problems and solutions. But I could also use something like this to show causes and effects. If I put something there in the middle, like patients not completing their treatment. That was one problem, a specific problem they talked about. I think that was in paragraph 5 in Health and Wellness on the Go. And they talked about, why don't patients complete their treatment? It's because of the complex therapy, the extended time. And what are the effects? Drug-resistant variants come up. The disease more easily spreads. And so I can take notes here looking at causes and effects. Another way to make a graphic organizer would be these kinds of classifying triangles, they're called. And that would show like 3 different ways or 3 different approaches or methods. And remember, we saw that here when we were talking about data, how information got smart. And they talked to us about different types of data, big data, linked data, data that's just reduced down to bits, or different types of monitoring was talked about. This is in another article. This is in mHealth, Health and Wellness on the Go. Monitoring that sends information to patients, monitoring that receives information from patients. So I'm using these circles, these organizers, to show how this information is related. Here's just one more, showing comparison and contrast, showing similarities and differences. Remember when we read the article about map making, and we talked about the old maps, the navigation tools they used, and then the new maps and the satellites and the GPS. Very different tools, and yet there were some things they had in common, right? They were both incorporating multiple sources and using artistic ways to create their maps. So I'm taking notes using graphic organizers. And here in your book, take a look at page 129. On page 129, they have more examples, more explanation about graphic organizers. And they talk to us about biome, microbiome. This is on page 129. They have 3 paragraphs. If I turn the page, I see the third. And as you look at that, just quickly, what do you see there? What is the main idea? And then what are the supporting points? How are they explaining, or what is their position? What is their claim about microbiome? And then how do they support those points? So if you want to pause here and take a look at these 3 paragraphs, you can do that. Hopefully you can see that really the main idea they're discussing here is they want to show us the origins and the functions of microbiome, why they're important, right? Where they come from, these microbiome, and how they're used, what their functions are. So they use different types of graphic organizers to capture those 2 supporting points, their origins. I see that graphic organizer on page 129 showing 1, 2, 3, 4 different origins. Where do microbiome come from? And then if I turn the page, I see another chart that shows something about the functions, the positive functions of microbiome and the negative functions of microbiome. So they're using these graphic organizers just to take notes on all the information that is given in these 3 paragraphs. I could take notes. I want to show you, I could use that same information that they're using about microbiome in their graphic organizers, and I could use an outline. So here's my outline of the 3 paragraphs, right? The first paragraph is a definition of microbiome. I see that's helpful, talking about the microbes that are all around and in our bodies. They also give us the main idea. We're trying to understand the sources, the origins, and the functions. In the second paragraph, I see that there are 4 main sources of microbiome in our bodies. And then in the third paragraph, I find 4 main functions of microbiome. So I could capture that same information in an outline that they captured in those 2 graphic organizers. Just want you to see that mostly what we're doing here is taking notes, using a graphic organizer to find the important information and how it's connected. And I'm going to ask you to do that with reading 6 this week. So you're going to look at this longer reading 6, and you're going to be taking notes. So here are some basic steps I want you to keep in mind as you look at reading 6, as you begin to annotate and then take notes. And really, annotating is the beginning of taking notes. Read the article, understand a main idea of the article, be looking for that, and then supporting points, highlighting something in each paragraph. Pay attention to the title, the subtitles, the divisions, and write some notes for yourself in the margins. That's your first step. As you go through this longer article, try to find something to highlight in each paragraph. After that, you're ready to make an outline, and you basically want to have something for each paragraph. So use the title, use the subtitles, use the sections, and then the number of paragraphs to create an outline. You can create a graphic organizer if you prefer. In your notebook, you can draw circles, you can show how the information in this article connects. Look for the text organization that you might find. There are some key words in this article that tell you about different approaches, different ways. There are some keywords that tell you about the process, what comes first, what comes next, and those are going to help you see text organization. Guys, when you're taking notes, don't try to write complete sentences from the article. When you're taking notes, you're going to be just writing keywords in order to create an outline, in order to see the overall organization. Your step 3 in this process is going to be to look at your outline using these good notes that you've taken. Write the main idea of the article. What is the main idea of this article based on the outline? You're going to start with a phrase like this. The article claims that, and then use the topic, right? It's something about drugs and drug discovery, and then write the main position of the article. What is this article saying about drugs and drug discovery? Don't use examples, don't use details, just one sentence to capture the main idea. And then, I did give you a couple examples, just to be clear. Here were a couple examples that people wrote about genomics. The first one, the article Genomics, explains that the scientific community has to work together with the public in order to find adequate solutions to these diseases. And what I suggested in this restatement, and also in this one, the article Genomics explains that people with the same disease should not be given the same treatment or drugs. They should be treated according to their genomes. For example, what works for Mr. A might not work for Mr. B. So I do want to show you a few things that I might change for each of these good answers. The first one, I would add the topic. When this writer said, it explains that the scientific community has to work together with the public to find solutions, I want this sentence to talk about genomes, to talk about genomics, to talk about genetics. Get the topic in there in order to make that a better sentence. In this one, I would change it by taking out the last part, the examples. I don't need any details. I just want one good sentence that really gives the main idea. And this writer is accomplishing that. In these first two sentences, it would be best if they could put those two sentences together. So guys, just in the last few minutes we have, I want to turn your attention to the article. It's on page 135. It's called Drug Discovery in the 21st Century. Take a look at it just quickly, see what it's about. How many sections are there? What are the pictures showing you? You're going to find out a lot about drug discovery, about this pipeline, about this process for finding new drugs. As you annotate this article, you're going to be looking at each paragraph for what is this paragraph contributing. Circle the keywords, write notes in the margins, right? And you're going to be using these notes in order to do the Skill 6 assignment that I'm giving you. I want you to just think about a few things as you get started. How are drugs and medications developed? What do you already know? We're learning a lot, just even as we watch vaccines be developed. Number 2, do we use something that already exists, or are we creating brand new compounds? And then the third question, who actually pays for all of this drug development? So this article is trying to get at some of these complicated questions. Your challenge this week is to read this article, to try to understand in general, what is this article about? Try to understand in general, what is each paragraph discussing? Make an outline, a graphic organizer, and you're going to be using all this as you do the assignment, skill assignment 6 that you'll find in the module.